It's time for Market Explainer, your number one business news podcast. Hosted by Danny and the big man. And it starts right now.
So this first story, Instagram, as we all know, went to this horrific feed that it's just you can't.
It's
here's the
controlled by
problem.
an algorithm.
Correct. Here's the problem with the algorithm feed that bothers me. I'll log in. I'll pull up Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I'll look, and I'll see a post that I'm like, hey, that's interesting, and then the freaking thing goes, oh, updated and then it goes, you already saw this. I saw it for 2 seconds. And I don't know who posted it. So now I'm scrolling furiously to find it because they got rid of this thing called the reverse chronological feed. Now they've brought it back and it's kind of curious. So what are your thoughts? Why do you think they bring this thing back?
Well, okay, so you got a couple of things here. So Instagram went to a feed in 2016, an algorithm feed. Look, this is when Danny originally sent the story over to me, I was like, what is interesting about this? Like, what is it business-wise? This is a business and marketing podcast. What is interesting about this? And at first, I didn't really see it because who cares? Who cares about Instagram's feed? You're going to be able to find or whatever. And really, this is just Instagram copying what is the fastest growing app in the world still this year, as it was last year. They're copying TikTok. Yes, it's still the fastest growing in the world. So TikTok, they're just copying
TikTok. Who's left to get TikTok? Who doesn't have TikTok?
I don't know. Look, Facebook has more users than there are people on this planet, right? So, look, all social media. Go ahead.
Corporations are people too.
By the United States government, the way they look at it, yes. But anyway, so the point is look, every social media platform out there uses an algorithm as their main feed on apps. Yes. However, all they did, like TikTok did originally, is you have your For You page, which is controlled by an algorithm, and then you have your favorites list, which is people that you follow. So you can go switch. Now, here's the problem with Instagram is they're giving you these new options. So you now have 3 options. You have the Instagram feed, the main, you're going to log on and you're going to see it. Then you have your following, people that you are actually following, and then you have your favorites, meaning things that you specifically put into this folder that you want, but they're not, people you want to follow, but there's information you want to access. They're only giving you up to 50 people in the favorites account. So once you get to 50, like a lot of music things, when you favorite a song, there's only so many songs you can favorite, and then you've got to start eliminating songs that you don't like.
Which I think is stupid because what they're trying to do, right? And the goal of all of these apps is time, right? The goal is to get you to, waste your time spent on the app. And if they give you, the problem is if you treat these apps like email, which is how I kind of treat them, right? Go in, look at the things that I wanted to see. I saw the things I wanted to see. Now I'm done, right? If you treat them like email, they can't make money, right?
Right.
So they want to suck you in. But the problem is people are starting to understand that, right? And we're just like with food, we started to understand, hey, wait, if it's in a can and it's really cheap, probably going to make you end up shopping at DXL, where we're not sponsored by DXL, but
we kind of
feel like we should be. We kind of should be.
People are going to, we live in a content generated world in today's world. So people are going to spend as much time as they're going to spend, regardless of how much information you collect on them. Again, TikTok, great example of this, right? They track everything. Look, this is all being pushed. You're right on the way that's what they sell advertisers. Time spent is what they turn around and tell advertisers, hey, this is how much time spent, so this is how much money you're going to give me, and I can increase that over time with more time spent, more videos, more yada, yada, yada. The point, though, is this is being pushed. The algorithm, nobody has ever liked the algorithm, not only the end user, but
Right.
also the only people that love the algorithm are the company that created the algorithm and the
Right.
sponsors that the advertisers
Yeah.
that pay them money.
So I don't even think the advertisers like it, because you reach a point when you're using some of these apps where I have reached, which is frustration, which is, hey, I follow certain people on Instagram because they're my friends' wives, because I'm a man, I don't
Mm-hmm.
have female friends. So it's my friends' wives, and they post pictures of their kids, and I just want to see that. And instead, I'm bombarded by, hey, do you like this? You don't know what I like, because I am unique. I'm a butterfly, a snowflake. I'm unique and different. And you don't know what I like. So they're constant. This happens to me on YouTube all the time. They constantly pitch me stuff that I don't care about, soccer or tennis.
Uh-huh.
And they're constantly bombarding me with stuff I don't want to see. And now we're getting to a point where I don't know that it is the utility of these apps is getting lost in their need to make money. I'm a capitalist. Make money, my friend, get paid.
Uh-huh.
But the problem is, if when you show me things I want to see, which is there's not the problem is there's not enough content, right? You can't feed me enough content because I want to
Enough
see a lot of
new
stuff.
content, right? Enough
Correct.
new content. So look, here's the deal though, is they're getting pressured. Algorithms are not just the future, but they are the now. Algorithms are going to continue to control more and more parts of your lives. It already controls things like green lights and red lights in certain areas and
Correct.
time of day. It already algorithms, just like you said, right? YouTube, any social media platform, if you like this, statistically you probably also like this. The
Right.
problem is like you said, is if the algorithm gets a bunch of bad data, like in your case, you said, okay, I also follow my aunt's Instagram and my whatever,
Right.
that doesn't mean I like, in my case, old white women, right? Or
Yeah.
whatever else. But there's no way to separate that from the algorithm, right? That
Right.
says, hey, you follow five old white ladies, you probably like this other old white lady, right?
Right.
So
You
there's
don't
no way to
like knitting.
separate that.
Like you're not like, hey, show me memes from the Golden Girls. I want to learn
And
about knitting, right? So
that may be something that eventually happens in the future, because here's what's pushing this. Danny said in the beginning, what made this story interesting for me, and Danny's not going to like this, but Instagram, along with other social media platforms like this, TikTok and even Facebook or whatever, the federal government has never liked algorithms. And the reason the federal government doesn't like algorithms is because they believe, especially in today's world, we live in 2022 and we all know what's going on all around the
no,
world
hold
and
on.
the United
You live
States
in
and
2022. I live in 2025. I'm from the future. I'm not even human. I'm an alien.
well, then Danny should know that lawmakers are definitely looking at these algorithms, and there's a very, very, very high chance that in the not so distant future, there's going to be a lot of laws passed about how these
Right.
algorithms act, how you can access them, what they can
Right.
gain of your data, and what you as the end user are allowed to separate your data and say, hey, I don't want you to have this, or I do want you to have this, and stuff like that.
Right.
So, that being the case, this is just Instagram following. They were in court last year being accused in court, I say, in the, not in court, but at in Washington D.C.
Yeah. Yeah.
answering
There.
algorithm
There.
questions.
There was a congressional hearing, is what you're talking about. I think.
Right,
Right.
because the lawmakers are going, again, going back to, I live in 2022, what's
Yeah.
going on in the world, what
Yeah.
happened last year in Washington, D.C., these kind of things. And
Right.
part of that blame from a lawmaker's standpoint, and part of a lot of people from the psychology standpoint, is going, there are people in our world that may not be so intelligent that they get
Right.
into what we call echo chambers
Yeah.
or algorithm filter bubbles,
Yeah.
right? And that kind of stuff. And it perpetuates that thinking because they
Right.
think, oh, my entire world is this way, when it's
Right.
just an algorithm finding like
Yeah.
information.
It, and to that end, let me just say this: if you live in a, if you don't have any, if you go back to 1995 when the internet was less of a factor, if you lived in a specific town,
Mhm.
if you went to a specific church, you probably had all sorts of echo chambery ideas. So
Oh,
this is just
100%.
right. So I'm just, so this is a from that perspective, this is just a lawmaker. Uh, all of these videos are about getting finance for their next campaign. It's all nonsense, right? From my perspective. And let me tell you, here in 2025, the future where I'm from, there isn't even a government, so it doesn't matter, right? But that's just me.
Well, look, here's what I know is that people from the day we're born until the day we die, we constantly grow and learn, and we have the
Right.
opportunity to constantly grow and learn. And the
Correct.
fact is if you do create echo chambers, look, if you're taught to worship a rock from the time you're born until you're 20 years old,
Right.
you worship a rock. That's what you know what I mean? So
That's what you do.
creating echo chambers works. Again,
Yeah.
religions have used it for thousands of
Okay.
years,
Okay. Okay.
right?
Okay.
So,
Okay. Okay.
look, my point though, so it works. Creating echo chambers works to your point. So this is why the government, when it comes to
Get behind me.
this is why look. So they've got several there, and when I say I'm making broad,
Yeah. 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 No. No. I
you know,
totally get what you're
broad
saying.
statements here. But here,
No, no,
like, there's one
but
in
I
Congress.
agree with you, right?
There's
But I
there's
agree
one
with what
been
you're saying.
put in Congress that's called the Protecting Americans from Dangerous Algorithms Act. It's being presented to Congress, and essentially this being very broad, it makes it legal. It makes companies like TikTok, like Instagram, whatever,
Liable.
liable for the algorithm if it applies specifically to misinformation. Right?
Well, the problem is then a person, or that's a political question. But let me just say this much: if an algorithm, the way to combat dangerous algorithms, and there is no such thing as a dangerous algorithm. An
Right.
algorithm
It's
is a
doing
string of
exactly what it's intended to do.
it's a string of code, my friend. Okay,
Right.
a string of code cannot fall on you like a piano in a cartoon. Okay, it
Mm-hmm.
can't hurt you. It's a piece of paper, really. In all practicality, um, the way to combat it is to be an intelligent person. And the problem is, you can't just say that to people, which is, hey, this thing is trying to show you things to make you whatever. It's trying to manipulate your feelings. And once you know that, it's like if you've ever had an ex girlfriend or whatever, an ex whatever, an ex, you realize, oh, they're just trying to manipulate my feelings, and they're not even doing it to be a jerk. They're doing it because they want to receive love and whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't know how to communicate in a straightforward way. Like, hey, I need you to hold me a little. I need you to hug a little time. Whatever it is, they don't know how to tell you that. And so
Mm-hmm.
algorithms aren't, they're not gaslighting you, okay? You can be an adult and be in charge of your own state of mind and emotions and go, this thing is showing me weight loss videos, not because not because I'm fat, which is a
Sure.
factor.
Sure.
Right.
Well,
No,
but
but
look,
hey, listen,
you're making the argument that people are smart enough and adult enough
no, I'm
to
not making I'm
to
not making the argument that they are. I'm saying that they should be and that they can be.
okay, see that
Yeah.
and that's completely different statement, right?
Yeah.
Because should they be? Absolutely. Are they? No. I was
Right.
having this conversation this last week with someone that
Right.
got very irate and angry at me, even though I still love them to death, and it didn't offend
Is
me
it
at all because
is it
debates can
Mrs. the
happen.
Big Man? Is it Mrs.
No,
the Big
not
Man?
Mrs. the Big Man.
Okay.
It was actually one of her friends that she made me do the,
Yes.
couples date with or
Oh,
whatever.
jeez. I
You
always
know,
hate that
but
nonsense.
the because the fact is there's what we wish the world could be, and
And what
everybody
it
should
is.
excel toward that, right? Like
Yes.
you said, every adult should be able to make their own choices based on
Correct.
facts and good
Yeah.
decision making and ethics and
And
all these things, but that's not reality. Reality
correct.
is we have to look for that criminal that may be around the next corner. We have to
Right.
look for that pedophile that may, you know what I mean,
Whoa,
that
whoa,
be on one
whoa,
of these things.
whoa,
My
whoa.
point is you have to look, right?
Yeah.
Is you can't rely, there's a difference between those two. And we live
Right.
in reality. We should
Yeah.
work toward better things, but we live in reality, and these apps know that one of these laws are going to
Yeah.
end up getting passed in one way or the other. One of the most basic things that at least eventually has to come down the pipe is the ability to turn the algorithm on or off.
Correct. And let me just say as a side note to that big word that you used, funny story. When I was a little kid, I was an adorable kid, but my father refused to buy the clothes that fit me, so everything I wore was a little too skin tight, if I do say so.
A little too tight?
Yeah, because he was not. he was thinking in his head, I don't want a chunky kid, but the clothes, that's not going to change it.
Yeah.
We were walking around Holiday Foods, which is now extinct, but it was the grocery store for people in our price range. So,
Yes.
and this guy randomly just took a picture of me with a camera, and this is the 90s, okay? It's not like people are walking around with a cell phone that has a camera and go,
Yeah, that was
kid.
camera.
He had it around his neck, and he took a picture of me, and like, I go, Mom, Dad, this guy just randomly took a picture of me in the frozen food section. I'm in kindergarten. So I'm holding somebody's hand, and my mom goes, "Yeah, okay, whatever." And I'm like, "No, but this guy,
No,
like,
but he literally, I was all pizza. He was all.
yeah, he's all like, so
Again, my point
glad,
is about
glad I survived the attempted trafficking,
yeah,
basically.
exactly. That's right. That's right.
Right.
But
So,
see, but that's my point. Is all. I get their fear of the algorithm. I really do. When you're looking in a world of answers, is how do we put a
yeah,
cap on quote unquote
yes,
misinformation? How do you put a
right,
cap on
yeah,
I don't know why we're going backwards when we use
yeah.
things like facts and stuff
So,
so how
right,
they're looking for these answers, and one of them is people, especially people in certain demographics that are more likely to believe in disinformation, are
right,
spending an exorbitant amount of time on,
right,
guess what, these
yeah,
apps.
right. So here's the other thing, right? Here's how to protect Americans from dangerous algorithms. Just tell them to delete the app. Right? It's not like the positioning of what you're saying, and which
Mm-hmm.
is the position of people who are trying to make the laws, is that someone from Instagram is walking around with a fire hose, not like trying to with a flamethrower, trying
Mm-hmm.
to light people on fire. And in reality, it's not like that. I can just here's the wild thing. I was out of town, as some of you saw in the last episode. I was filming somewhere else, and I just didn't go on Twitter for some reason because I was out of. I don't know why. I just didn't because I was out of town.
Mm-hmm.
My routine got switched up. Guess what happened? Nothing.
Nothing. Well,
It's fine.
and social media, this whole algorithm question could be lumped in. A couple weeks ago, you and I were talking about something else, and we talked about laws being proposed that are going to be more about your data. Right now that we all live online more, and I mean, there are companies out there that force you to only purchase things through their website or whatever.
Correct.
You're being forced almost online from a business and more social standpoint,
That's
right?
true. That is true.
Amazon, again, we talked about they could be no storefront for you to go to, right?
Right.
Eventually, you
Yeah.
right. So the point is you're being pushed, and laws going on to protect your data, giving you more
Right.
control over your
Control of your
data
data.
in the ability of going on to eventually, if they passed a law that, hey, data is yours and a company cannot profit off of it, for example,
Right.
without your express consent, then all of a
Right.
sudden Instagram has to put a big green button on the front saying, will you give us your data or not, right?
Right.
Whether that's Instagram or any other company, right? So there may be rules and laws passed about the data
Right.
that don't specifically, right, geared toward social media, but media in
Correct.
general, right?
Right. And I guess we'll have to see how that all plays out. Um,
This does
we're gonna.
nothing. This does nothing for Instagram or really its consumers. By the way, that
Yeah.
one of the factor one of the fact is, and TikTok does this as well. When you log onto your Instagram account, until they make your data yours, you're going to be on
Right.
the main algorithm feed. You're going
Right.
to have to press a button or two to
Right.
get to these other things. And guess
Right.
what? People won't do most of the time.
Do that.
They won't press anything.
So here's the thing. I'll give this last example. We're going to roll into the next thing. I use the incognito keyboard on my phone. And I used to have the incognito keyboard and the regular keyboard being the same color. They're both black. But then what would
Mm-hmm.
happen is I wouldn't realize that it snapped out of the incognito keyboard. So I changed it to white. So now I know, hey, this isn't the incognito keyboard. And the same thing on Facebook. Facebook, I have to go click to change it to most recent. So it does not kick me to the algorithm. because
They're all going to keep their algorithm first. That's what they want you to be. The fact is good. You 90% of most things stolen on the internet and whatever hacked and stuff like that of your personal data is if people would just delete their freaking cookies every time they close a browser down. But guess what? Those cookies is what holds the passwords that you don't want to remember. It holds the websites that you like. It holds, it holds all these things. Laziness is overwhelming. Right, in our world, and as long as that's the case, it's gonna, your information is out there. So anyway,
for sure.
What's our next story?
Well, before we jump into the next thing, Market Explainer has a Patreon, and I want to let you know, you can go to patreon.com/Market Explainer. The full episode videos are usually published over there. We are going to be adding stuff all the time. Hey, you never know. Maybe I'm going to go on a wacky weight loss journey so I can look like one of those melted candles that you like see on Instagram. And it's going to be exclusively cataloged on our Patreon. That might be something that happens. I can't make.
We should do a Patreon live party. Like kick off our Patreon on live where we just tell people right then to go in. We'll give away some prizes. We'll do some crazy stuff. We should do a Patreon live. I'm going on record right now. We should do that.
Yeah, well, we should do a lot of things, and I'm sure we'll get to it at some point. So that is
what's our next story?
That's patreon.com/Market Explainer and our website, marketexplainer.com.
Mm-hmm.